Today we are here in RDA plenary. We've had a few discussions before as well. Our group today is myself. My name is Maija-Stina Arvola. I come from CSC IT Center for Science from Finland. I have my colleague Heidi Laine here, who will be presenting later. Christine Kirkpatrick is here at site as well, from San Diego Supercomputing Center. Other people who have contributed to this session, but unfortunately can't be here today, are Maciek Sitowski and Mark Gray from Pawsey Supercomputing Center, Lynn Pushard from Brookhaven National Laboratory, who actually have a parallel session at the moment. Unfortunately, due to that reason, can't be here. But we've had for the previous sessions contributions from other people as well. And well, due to unexpected circumstances, Natasha Simons couldn't be here today, who was supposed to be here. But we have quite an active and interested group on this topic that has been growing during the past 2 years. And of course, if you would like to join our group and this exercise, we'll give you instructions later how to do that. We are looking forward to a very lively discussion today, so please don't hesitate to ask questions here or on chat. We have Heidi monitoring that, so feel free to interrupt, or then we can discuss later. But what the session is actually about is that we have two communities, high performance computing community and data management community, that have clear synergies. But those communities have traditionally developed solutions quite independent from each other. And this has resulted to a certain level of disconnect between the two communities. So we see that there is a gap between the communities, but there is a growing need to connect the two. We have solutions, technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, new technologies on digital twins that actually require that we have a close connection. We develop solutions together and we communicate more actively and interact more actively between the two communities. This is the motivation behind. Our group combines people who either have experience from both communities, have been involved in both sides. Sorry to speak about sides. I don't want to emphasize the gap, but it's clear that there is some kind of a gap between the two. Or then we come from organizations that deal with both HPC and data management solutions, or have an interest to bring these two closer together. We've had a series of discussions before. We started in the previous RDA plenary, or is it 19 actually where we started, Christine?
It was 20 and so.
Okay, great. And after that, we got some input from the discussions in the previous plenary that showed that actually among the audience there was also an interest to work on this issue. And that's why we thought that it might be necessary to actually go to some of the supercomputing events as well and have similar discussions there and see how the audience reacts and what kind of comments we get from there. So we went to Supercomputing 22. Myself, I wasn't there, but other people contributed to that, and to International Supercomputing 23. And we will show later some results of those discussions. And what we would like to hear from you today is input for the way forward. How should we continue this work? And is it worth continuing at all? That's of course an important question as well. So we'll go to a few problem statement cases that will be presented by Heidi and Christine. Then we'll look into the results of the previous discussions, and then hopefully we'll have a lively discussion among us all here. So let's go. Heidi, please.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. So I'm Heidi Laine, Maija-Stiina's colleague from CSC, IT Center for Science in Finland. So we are the national high-performance computing supercomputer center in Finland, but we also have a broader international role. We host one of the Euro HPC supercomputers, LUMI, which at least at one point in time was the third most efficient in the world. But I've understood that these things get old quite quickly. Rankings, we're still out. Whoa. So I myself am not a HPC expert. I come from the data management side. That's where my expertise is, and more particularly in sensitive data questions, data protection, especially, and research integrity and ethics. And I feel like I have the easiest task in the world, which is to convince you that there are challenges regarding handling of sensitive data in HPC. I think this pops up like all over. Also here at International Data Week, I have come across with like several discussions about the challenges regarding sensitive data, not the HPC aspect in particular, but it is clear that sensitive data related issues are a hot topic all around globally. So the heading there says that this is a presentation of the Finnish experience. I believe that many of these things are quite universal, but that's of course the kind of our angle. So we are in Finland seeing a big increase in demand for HPC capacity and capability for sensitive data. We have in Finland vast and I've understood quite unique national registries that cover tens of years and the entire population. But and with the AI and machine learning methods, we could do a lot with those data resources. But there is currently no suitable HPC available. And why is that? Well, the current national HPC infra has not been designed with sensitive content in mind, and it predates some key national regulation. You also, the non-Europeans among you have probably heard about the GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulation. That's kind of an not so new thing anymore, but we have some national legislation that kind of implements the GDPR further, especially for these health and social service registries, and they set very strict demands for the environments where this data can be handled. And also we have experienced that many of the sensitive data holders, both on the organizational and individual side, they lack understanding and necessary expertise on HPC. And also on the other side, the HPC experts, they lack understanding a little bit also the sense of urgency on making these HPC environments and services available for sensitive data. What does it take, and why is it important? And I think this is like a very good case example on the need of more discussion and dialogue between the HPC and data management communities. Here are some examples of like topics that I personally feel, and these stem from our experiences at CSC. Beyond my own experiences, of course, I have to give credit to my colleagues who like actual HPC experts whom I have consulted in preparing this problem statement. So some of the more specific questions include some like a little bit more on the technical side solutions. So there are solutions for handling sensitive data in the HPC environment. One thing that has been discussed at CSC is containerizing the sensitive data and then encrypting those containers. But that gives rise to certain further questions: how to manage the keys, for example, how to manage identifiers for the containers, are persistent identifiers needed, so forth. Classifying data based on sensitivity levels is still something that's very much a work in progress in Finland nationally, and I feel like beyond in Europe and maybe even globally, because I don't think one size fits all solutions are good, because the heightened security always comes with a cost. So it doesn't make sense to kind of shoot every fly with a shotgun. I don't know how well this translates this, says it, but you get the gist, I feel. Yeah, and because the stricter security measures come with a cost in computational efficiency, and of course a monetary cost as well, we need to discuss prioritization. And then also risk appetite is something where I feel like we need more discussion and a discussion that happens among that needs expertise from the HPC side, the research data management side, from legal experts, and also the top management in organizations. I have here a quote from a good friend and a great thinker, Ville Tenhunen, who's also in the room, that the only fully secure computer is a computer that's turned off. So whenever we do anything, there's always a risk involved. But also we need to take into consideration that if we do nothing, that also comes with a risk. So we need a broad and balanced discussion on the acceptable risks. And I think this requires technical expertise and different types of expertise. And then lastly, the trusted research environments is a concept that is buzzing in Finland, and I feel like in Europe. The picture there relates to that, the 5 saves. That is by no means a Finnish invention. This particular picture is from the UK Data Service. That kind of represents the different security aspects that need to be taken into consideration when we are creating environments for sensitive data handling, and yeah, how to integrate HPC into those environments is a challenge that requires like broad community discussion. So I hope I've managed to convince you that we have a problem here, but we have also solutions. But in order to implement those solutions, we need bridging between these two communities, HPC and RDM. Thanks.
Okay. Well, hi, thank you again for the introduction. Christine Kirkpatrick here, a data person, but I am at a supercomputer center, which makes me feel like a weirdo a lot of the time. It's like data people generally don't go to those places, but I'm really an infrastructure person who became aware of data science, and then got branded a data person. But I'm really interested in many topics. One of the groups that I think is bringing the HPC and the data side together in a wonderful way is this group called the Machine Learning Commons. And you can see all of their stuff at mlcommons.org. Their tagline is better machine learning for everyone. Basically, what they exist to do is you don't have every kind of GPU available to you. You don't have every kind of processor. You don't have infinite cycles, but you might like to know if you're doing, say, image recognition, what are different configurations and how do those perform against other configurations? And what are the trade-offs? What are the issues that arise? And so the ML Commons is a pre-competitive space, which you can, there's all these teeny tiny logos here on the right. But basically, if you thought of a tech company that creates hardware or software for machine learning, it's probably on there. And then, of course, a collection of universities as well. And so we band together to establish benchmarks, really try to cover the landscape of what are the different things that you can do with machine learning. I'm part of a group called the ML Commons Science, which focuses on what problems aren't being worked on and improved by industry. So image recognition, natural language processing, this is a landscape very well covered in industry. But if you look on the other side, who's working to make sure that you can identify clouds in satellite data? Not as much an industry concern. And so ML Commons Science just put out a cloud masking benchmark, which is also, if you're someone who's not just looking at performance, but you're trying to look for data sets that you can use to train your models, it's also a great source for that. And it's also neat because you can compare how things are performing on commercial cloud versus, systems you've heard of if you're in the HPC world. ML Commons also releases data sets. So that the two in particular that have come out that I think are pretty cool, the People Speech, which has, I think, a few dozen different languages. So if you're trying to train something on audio recognition, for example, and then Dollar Street, I hope I don't garble what it's about, but basically it's a set of images that show everyday household items and are identified by country. And so it's kind of an advanced image recognition, but also social science data set for figuring out if you see these kind of objects in the home, this might mean it's a middle income household, or other ways that you can extract demographics and hopefully do good things, not evil things with that info. One of the places I know, I'm a little cringy too, but it is a powerful data set. One of the things that I work on is trying to help the ML Commons realize all of this benchmarking data is actual data that we could mine to figure out not just like, oh, the A100 is a great GPU, but when you use this combination of things, or if you use the TensorFlow that's optimized for your GPU, look how much energy it saves. And so I think this has been, AI in general and machine learning, but the ML Commons is a perfect place to show how great things can be when they come together. Okay, now putting on my fake Brookhaven hat for Lynn Pouchard, talking about, she has this great set of projects at Brookhaven National Lab. It's a Department of Energy lab on the East Coast in the US. They have some projects that are doing a combination of things, very data intensive, a lot of numerical data, but not all. And so jobs that need to make sure that they're using the right resource or the right accelerator or not for the right thing, all orchestrated by this workflow manager. And that's where her work comes in, is doing not just the workflow orchestration, but making sure that it's data aware. Let me just jump ahead to show a little bit more about this project called recup. So if you look here on the left, there's all these things, this blue box here, there's all these things that are opportunities to get metadata. You've got performance data, workflow behavior data, which is also where a lot of the provenance can be captured, the application data, IO performance data, et cetera. And all of these things had to have custom development written so that they could extract the data and be able to study that. They've gone a step further, and for those of you who are familiar with Carol Goebel and others' work, they take all of this data and metadata, all these different points for making things fair, and package that into an RO crate profile. You might think, well, that's a great implementation. What's so special about this? At HPC centers, and this is a great anecdote from Lynn, she was part of a data management group once. And you would think, oh, well, what a great HPC center that they even have one. Where she was, the data management group only worried about helping with the IO bottleneck. So there's no what we think of as research data management. It's, managing the Globus stuff, making sure things get off the long-term storage fast enough so it can be mounted by HPC. Okay, well, now I'll turn it back over to Majestina to talk about what we learned from previous FOFs before we learn a bit more from you.
Thanks, Christine, and thanks, Heidi, as well. So I think the problem statement is quite clear now. If it's not, we can start the discussion already here. But I sense that you agree with the challenges that have been presented. What we wanted to discuss today exactly are the results from previous discussions and how to take those forward in the future. So as I said in the beginning, we've been having two discussions in supercomputing events in SC22 and in ISC23 last spring. And the problem statement that we presented there was very similar to what we've been discussing here today. So the two communities being developing independently, and this resulting into different terminology, different ways of working, standardization, and this makes it difficult to work on a common framework without regular and active interaction between the two. And we see that it becomes more and more evident with new technologies that you need to bridge the gap more efficiently than it's done today. Well, especially for the reproducibility of the research, that's quite clear motivation behind bridging the gap. We had in these two discussions in supercomputing events, we had, I think, close to 100 participants in total. We had Mentimeters to collect input. 62 of the participants responded to those two Mentimeters. We asked questions, very basic questions. Where are you coming from? What community do you think you represent? What's your current role? What do you expect from the session? And one interesting question that we wanted to put forward in the supercomputing community was, are you familiar with FAIR principles that are quite well known in the RDA community, for example? But we wanted to know, is the situation the same in supercomputing events? Of course, we wanted to hear about the challenges that people are actually facing in daily lives, in their daily work, maybe not in outside work, but related to their work. But we maybe got some more personal challenges in the Menti responses as well, and what they expected to get out from the discussion. On the expectations, people said that they would like to actually learn about the techniques. They would like to get concrete solutions, but also clearly there were people who saw the challenge from both sides and wanted to convince HPC focused people, experts, to see data in a wider perspective than just storage, for example. But also the motivation of bringing different kinds of data sets together, different types of data from different sources, was seen among the audience. And well, practical solutions to those challenges were sought as well. Learning from others was one motivation to join the discussion. Real user problems wanted to be addressed. So there was clear motivation to get practical solutions and an expectation to get ready results, ready solutions from others. Of course, that's not the case. The world is not ready in that sense. There's a lot to do before we get there. Well, people realize that computers are not that interesting without data. That's quite clear. And there was a community building aspect as well. People wanted to meet fellow frustrated folks and get more friends. That's always a good motivation. There was one question about the FAIR principles, as I said, and the result was that well, almost the same amount of people who knew what FAIR principles are said that they don't know. So 25 people responded that yes, I know what FAIR principles are. 24 said no, I don't know, and quite many were unsure as well. So it's to me this was surprising. I don't know what you think, but I expected that FAIR principles have been there for such a long time that they would be more commonly known. So clearly there is a gap visible in this sense as well. Some of the challenges that people realized being there were regarding the terminology that the communities use. The terminology is different. The wide range of science domains and requirements related to those domains that was seen as a challenge as well. The growing amounts of data, that's a clear challenge. Diversity of tools and maturity of software, yeah, that was coming from the audience clearly as well. And well, there were quite many challenges seen from the HPC perspective, like efficient workflows, but also challenges regarding data standards that are in place or under development. How how to develop actually machine actionable fair services. I think that is actually the topic of the parallel session here today. Unfortunately, these are overlapping, so I would have wanted to participate the other discussion as well, to hear experiences from that side. But then there were some personal challenges. Not getting respect from HPC people was one comment that we got. But then, what do we do with these results? How do we take forward this exercise? Because now what we've done now and what we felt that was necessary was to raise the awareness of the issue of the situation. But how do we actually work together to the future? And that's where we need your help. Do you want to go on?
Thank you so much. Can I hear any water going on? Do you hear that? Sorry. So while you, if the easiest thing is if you have a smartphone to just point it at the QR code and it will take you there. While people are joining, I'm going to switch over so that we can see the live Menti. Oops. Yeah, I'm bringing it back here. Okay. Oh, wait. Okay, there we go. Okay. Yeah, let me just say, I was really surprised by this. I was, just someone, slightly miserable at an HPC center who felt at home when I would come to things like this and was with my people. And then Tamea had at the Seoul IDW last year, she was the one that started this topic. And it was such a breath of fresh air to think like, oh, okay, I don't have to just accept that these communities are always going to be far apart, and maybe there's some hope. And of course, CSC is such a premier supercomputing center. It also gave me the confidence to say, okay, well, they're leading this. I'm going to follow, and I want to work on this. I did propose a buff at supercomputing, which is one of the premier supercomputing conferences, for those of you who don't know, where it would have been last fall. We did, of course, have our Bridging the HPC Data Divide, which thankfully that was accepted, but they did decline the one that was called kind of a riff on the RDA group Fair for ML. The rejection said, my favorite review said, I don't even know what FAIR is. And I'd come from the perspective of people are so tired of having a slide that have some FAIR principles. I just kind of skipped over that. But anyway, here we are. And that was one of the reasons we added that question about, do you know the FAIR principles? Because it didn't occur to me that HPC people wouldn't. In the US, that's on most of our solicitations, which is, kind of how we're all pointed as getting money. Okay, so I think we're all there. Let's go to the first question. Just try and kind of map representation. This is a little important because at that first supercomputing, it was very heavy US. That was when people were just starting to travel, but not doing a lot of international travel. Okay, well, it looks like we have a good representation of Europe and the US.
Where I'm from or where I work?
Ah, that's a good question. You could be either. Maybe where you work, though, so we can kind of represent the work landscape for you. Okay. Okay, in your current role. Okay, all right. So a good scattering of people across research computing, research data. Okay. This will be an interesting one. I could tell you what it looks like at a supercomputing conference. Not a lot of both. But God bless the person who came to this International Data Week and is an HPC person, because we need you. Two of you, thank you. And I think we're showing that there's a chance for these boths in the room, you know, and maybe some of those data people will baptize you a bit in HPC without ruining you, and we'll join forces together. Okay. And again, I hope you don't mind some of the questions we've asked before, but we're also trying to get a good sample and then look across time to see, you know, how the audience needs are different from these different communities. Thank you. Oh, wonderful. Yes, we will join forces. We're doing it right now. Yes, and finding the ways to join in concrete action is very important, and making some progress. Fair HPC research. Yes, some exemplars out there would be good. Yeah, I know. So this helping HPC people understand the data isn't fluffy stuff. My previous boss, the director of the San Diego Supercomputer Center, said that, well, okay, he was trying to help me understand why this is even an issue and something to bridge. And he said, the HPC people just say, bring me trees and I'm going to make them into boards. They don't care what's going through. They don't care what you're going to do with them after or where they came from. They're just processing. And I don't know why, but it does feel sometimes like, especially the old guard HPC, really thinks that this is, oh, well, you know, whatever, somebody else is going to worry about that. That's not the real computing. It's like, I think AI, the COVID pandemic and then AI now are both two moments in data where people say, okay, we can no longer ignore data is, you know, critical to this working. Okay, awesome. Okay, and you know why we're asking this one? And if you don't, though, it's okay. Please be honest. But yeah, it would have been, I don't know what you were doing all week if you hadn't heard of them so far here, but yeah. But this is a great, this will be great data for some of us to take back to these supercomputing settings to say like, okay, this is really something other places, you know, should at least take 5 minutes and read through them. And for the one person who said that, findable, accessible, interoperable, reusable, 15 principles. It's not just an acronym. Okay. Okay, and really love to hear what are your biggest challenges related to that HPC people are maybe not always interested in data, not thinking about data. Yeah, silos, right? Yeah. Yeah, Scratch is not research data. Oh my gosh. I was just working with someone on a pilot and we had offered them some space to do something. And then nothing happened. I mean, it's the classic thing. They weren't really interested in doing the pilot. Nothing happened. So he said, we're going to shut this down. And they were like, hold on, we have several terabytes of data we don't have anywhere else. And I was like, what's the heck? Yeah. I mean, it's just, people are eternal optimists, I guess. Yes, RDM is different than data management. So true.
That's mine.
Oh.
HPC, you can probably guess not.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. For a long time, I think this person who said data getting produced has a high chance of being unusable. I think that a lot of roots in HPC, right? When you talk about the third and the fourth paradigm, going by Tony Hay, I think. Third paradigm being when things were simulation heavy and people wouldn't even always keep the simulations, right? And they would just dump it. And some of that thinking has come into this fourth paradigm, the data intensive era, and it's I think a destructive. Okay, and the last question, what would be an actionable outcome from this discussion that would be useful to you? And we are completely open to what you think here. Okay, 10 things to do. I like that a lot if you do research with HPC. Best practices for applying FAIR to HPC storage. Concept paper on challenges and areas to pursue, step-by-step guides. Okay, we've got a lot saying we want actionable, practical things. RDA working group, okay. And it's okay if you're not sure. Thank you for attending the session and even just listening to what we had to say and taking that awareness with you. Pointers to success stories. Capturing snapshots, yes. 23 things model, that's great. Briefings, yes. Yeah, so some of the technical and socio-technical I'm seeing here. Yeah, and so maybe also with the gaps, it's also the value proposition of, okay, here's the problem, but if you spend the time, it's worth it because you'll get this, which is worth it to you. Okay, another vote for a working group, hopefully with people who want to chair that and write all the application. Yeah, yeah, sorry. Well, RDA working groups are wonderful. I just want to be real with you that don't look at me. I'm not doing it. But I would be happy to help with just me personally, I'd be happy to help with these guides, concept paper, these best practices, the success stories. And one problem we have is, we come to the RDA plenaries or International Data Week and we have kind of a captive audience a bit, but it's how are we going to draw in the supercomputing people that's really, and empower people to be champions who take it back and, infect the rest of the HPC people. And so I think it might be that we have to do some of these activities where HPC people are, if we're really going, otherwise we just, we'll be very strong, but we might not have as big of an impact. And I don't know of anything that's like an RDA group in the supercomputing world, aside from holding BOFs at ISC and supercomputing. So I don't know if anyone has any ideas of how to, kind of break in. Yeah, I don't know if there are things like affinity groups. Yeah. Okay, well, and feel free to, this question will remain open for a little bit longer, but do you want to go to some discussion? Why do you see that? Or do you want me to put up the last slide? Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I was already leaning back and
Okay.
enjoying.
Okay. And control. Thanks. Okay.
Actually, one thing, in addition to the discussion papers and best practices papers, these kind of things that you can share with people, what we've been discussing is a bit more in-depth workshop in one of the upcoming supercomputing events. What we would like to hear from you is what are the main messages you think that we should be, or we all should be bringing forward to that workshop? If we would take a look at some best practices, case examples, or some solutions that have been developed. But in addition to that, what would be the kind of the community message that we want to bring forward?
Don't be shy, I'll come to you, especially sitting further in.
Just if you're in the doc, and maybe put an asterisk if you're going to be at SC, and we can still talk to one another as well.
Right.
That is a great suggestion. And I will have a BOF at SC. It's this last bullet, machine learning from the data's perspective. No mention of fair description, because I didn't want to get denied, but it's on the Tuesday for those of you who will be there. No. Any general comments or reactions too?
Hi, Ariasmi from the RDA Europe. Just to kind of, I'm sure that you know about it, but if you are going for an working group idea, and especially considering the slight hesitance of co-chairing and so on, I understand it. But in the RDA, we have this program called RDA Tiger, where we can support working group creation as well. So trying to make the case statement and so on, that's one aspect. And then we could provide also engagement. Our facilitation services, first of all, for the working group. So it would make it easier. And especially if you're bringing people who are not familiar with RDA into the group, having let's say a person who does the facilitation for the group activities might be useful. And one of the other services which we do have in the RDA Tiger as well is engagement. It's a little bit fuzzily defined, but the idea in there is also so that, for example, if you are doing this connection to the HPC, we can try to really actively try to contact people from there and explain what the RDA working group is, how it works, what would be the benefits, and so on. But of course, we cannot do the work of you are the domain experts. We cannot do from our side this part, but we can try to help you with that. So that's an option if you want to go towards the working group.
No, thank you for that, Ari. Well, let me just ask, does anyone want to chair a working group? Anyone putting up, because I don't want to speak for Natasha, who's not here, but I believe none of the organizers are standing to do this.
Yes, Ville Tenhonen from ETH Foundation. Yeah, I'm interested in this topic in numerous level, but I would like to promote and remind one thing concerning about this plenary program. Tomorrow morning we have this second BOF Birds of Feather session concerning about trusted research environments, and it's connected with these issues, and it will be tomorrow 9 o'clock in Europe Hall, this big one. So there is a very much space for every discussions and so on. So, and we have there an idea also and discussions about working groups and deliverables concerning about these things, but that perhaps these two things can be synchronized some way. Yeah.
Just especially the first issues that I raised on the presentation from CSC, a number of the topics are already on the agenda of the working group that we will be submitting as a charter with people coordinating them. So we should definitely sync up and, rather avoid duplicating the work. And, once we have volunteers on one side to lead it, I agree with you, that's the tough challenge. Then I guess this might actually flow quite naturally. So very interested on lining up on that. The above is trusted research environments, trusted/secure research environments, because it's for sensitive and confidential data, and we need to clean up the terminology. One of the issues there. But I guess so that the 4 problems are blueprints for architecture and process models for dealing with sensitive data, risk classification for data and the compute trade-off, fairness for sensitive data. So how can we make sensitive data fair? And remind me, what was the 4th one? Sorry, interoperability. Sorry, how can data centers and compute centers that work with such data interoperate? So how can I know when to trust the other side so that I am allowed legally, but also technically to trust and share that? So a number of the questions that were on the first presentation, not doing all the other stuff that is happening here, and that's also relevant and interesting, but that subpart might be actually covered, and we might bring into this group from that side.
Yeah, I think actually that might be one approach, that not establish a new working group, but work through the existing ones, because there are several of this one that you mentioned, but also the fair to machine learning group. There are several of these that actually deal with the topic from different approaches. So
yeah, that's a great point. We can put our energy behind the one emerging and the other existing, and not have it be its own area. I know one thing we've talked about is having a workshop at supercomputing where we know HPC people will be, and we get them to do some training and, kind of baptize in the FAIR principles and some other things. And maybe after that is a way then we could get them to come to an International Data Week or an RDA. But maybe these groups are a great place. We can work on some of these outputs we talked about. I mean, something that's lacking in the US is, funding to get some of these people who wouldn't otherwise come to these meetings. They're not necessarily, you don't think of people from HPC centers as people who are in need of funding, maybe, but, somehow incentivizing people to come to meetings that they're not prioritizing the travel funding. Any other,
Amy Nurnberger, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. So building on that, Christine, like the need of getting funding, I'm wondering if there's this underlying issue that we've touched on, which is demonstrating value to the HPC supercomputing world of why research data management matters to them. What is the benefit to them of caring about research data management within that HPC space? And, it's that mode of connection, that communication, the relationships that we need to build there. And I'm not sure what is the best structure, but something around that pithy acronym, because who doesn't love a pithy acronym, about why this matters to you, why this is going to make your HPC center better, more efficient, get more funding.
Yeah. Well, and at the moment, the way I've approached it is emphasizing the role of data and machine learning, but it can be hard. If I tried to have a talk at my own center, it'd be people self-selecting who already care about data. And so it's like, how do you get someone who's only thinking about cores, to like lift up and see value?
So to kind of answer your question earlier that you were asking about another organization. So I'm not sure how many people have heard about ADAC. So this is the Accelerated Data Analytics and Computing Consortium. It was started by Oak Ridge National Laboratories, and it's a group of about 13, I think, right now. I know CSC is part of it, ETH Zurich, Oak Ridge, Lawrence Livermore. So it's a consortium of about 13 different HPC centers, and they get together to talk about a variety of different things: applications, benchmarking, system management, all sorts of different things. We just had a workshop in Paris about a month and a half ago. And I forgot her full name, Martha. I guess she's from Delft, I think. And she gave a talk about open research data. And she was one of the keynote speakers there. It might be an opportunity. The thing of it is that the ADAC consortium is kind of focused on certain things. Like they have it's by invitation only, so it's this closed thing. But AIST in Japan, we're participating and we're one of the consortium members. So, and I know CSC is
Yeah.
the people from CSC are there too. So it might be an opportunity in the future because you're gonna hit exactly the audience that you're talking about, the HPC people who think about cores. So, so I mean, so it might be. I just wanted to throw that out there. I mean, I can take, well, you know, since we're participating, I can bring it back as an idea to them and see what they think. So.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thanks. It's a really good idea. Yeah, we could get back to that.
Yeah, and it's perfect timing
Yeah.
because Martha she just gave a keynote talking about it.
Yeah,
And she
exactly.
mentioned FAIR, and I think everybody in the audience kind of didn't know what it was except for me and maybe one other person. So, but anyways.
Yeah, definitely it's an important forum for that, even though it's a closed community in a sense, so it doesn't reach the wider community, but maybe we could build something there.
But I mean, this very thing about workflows and how the
Mhm,
data
exactly.
of, you know, applications impact workflows and system management on HPC systems. It's definitely one of the big bullet points of the consortium. So ADAC, ADAC. So it's the Accelerated Data Analytics and Computing. Yeah, if you Google it, you'll find it. It's just, and it was started at Oak Ridge National Labs. I believe it was ETH Zurich and Tokyo Tech were the three founding members. They started early on, and we just had, it was the 12th workshop. So they've been around for about, let me see, I think they have it twice a year. So 6 years.
2019, if I remember
Yeah, so it's like
correctly.
6 or 7 years. Yeah. And so we have a MOU across all the 13 different institutions. So that's how it all kind of got started. So ADAC.
And does it sound like in the US, they're mostly Department of Energy labs? Okay, well, for those of you who aren't in the US, we kind of have a divide between National Science Foundation funded and Department of Energy. And so we have even more silos even in HPC, but we're bridging them to right now.
Just thinking about silos and things like that, what I've been trying to do recently, I mean, I work for a university, so we have our high performance computing team, we have our data team, and it's, I mean, we're almost a comical example of one institution which has two teams that have never historically spoken to each other. And when we try to do so, it's as though we're speaking completely different languages. But recently, I've just been trying to introduce some of my colleagues to the concepts of fair data and the usefulness of the information that is captured pretty much automatically by our HPC systems in terms of what happens to data and the processing, the linking between software code that's run on the data and input and output data centers. And at the moment, they are generally looking at me blankly as though they have no idea what I'm talking about. But I think if you repeat it often enough, there is a start, oh, okay, so the actual data that we process, we could record information about, well, we get that information anyway. But they've never really thought to use it because it's almost a byproduct of the HPC processes, which would actually be extremely useful. So if you're in an institution where you are working with teams from both, try talking to them. I'm finding it's quite enlightening. Maybe a bit basic, but didn't occur to me for years.
We need to just summarize what you just said. It's a paragraph in those papers or the examples that we talked about. I think that's yeah, so typical. And actually I was thinking, you know, maybe we'll be so lucky that the San Diego supercomputer could join ADAC, but I would imagine, I will bet you money, and it's okay, I can say this on a recording because no one in my institution is on or going to be listening to this besides people that work for me. I bet you money, if SDSC joined ADAC, it's going to be not me. They'll be like, oh, is Satoshi on this? Well, then I got to be on this. And it'll be people who never talk about data, but at least they would get to the table and hear keynotes and maybe start. It could happen. Okay. Any comments? Other thoughts?
Hi, I'm Yuri Schönfeld from German Aerospace Center, and I might have a interesting viewpoint because I'm a, obviously very young researcher, and there were a few comments to HPC people and even one to physicists, and That's interesting to me because I am a physicist, and I'm also the person who was not sure what the FAIR principles were. And the reason for that is because no one ever told me. So maybe one idea is to go to the younger people, go to the universities and go to the places where young researchers like hang out, especially from the HPC intense communities, and talk to them and make them aware of this problem, because I don't think they are ignorant, they just don't know. And the universities are the places where this mentality that the data and the fair stuff is kind of a burden you have to get over, they are born there, those mentalities. So talk to the people, they are probably happy to hear what you have to say.
Thank you so much for that. And thank you for being here at this session. And that is a good reminder. So one of the sessions I chaired yesterday was the training data stewards and competency centers. And there are a few universities, University of Vienna is one, where they have a program. They actually go out and they have research data management for PhD students, and they do try and do this outreach. And I think there are models like that. And yes, the early career people, you're going to fix everything. We're counting on you. Those of us who are older with baggage, maybe we have less hope, but yes, great point.
No pressure.
Yeah, we've got to get you to one of these ADAC meetings where you can evangelize.
Yeah, I would be happy to come there. But coming from that previous comment, I think it would be, I mean, there is so many different also RDA sponsored and co-data sponsored schools on explain all courses and course materials. But I don't think there have ever been, to my knowledge, one which is really targeted towards people who work in HPC. And of course, as we know, this kind of communication needs to be tailored for the target audience. So that could be actually a very interesting thing to know, how to talk to the HPC oriented people in a sense that it makes sense to them, and collect this kind of information. It would be very useful to build this kind of, it doesn't have to be a full course or something, but at least some sort of material which would be easily understood, and the value of the fair data is made very clear to them. It's just as an idea.
No, that's a great point. And I feel like I'm falling down on the job as being part of the advisory committee for SWORDS, which is the RDA CODATA. I didn't learn the new acronym, but Research Data Summer Schools of Research Data Science. Sorry. Thank you, Rob, who's one of the founders over here. But we do have that curriculum. Yeah, this is a hard problem. This actually reminds me. So my institution has a summer institute. We have early career people come, 50, sometimes more every summer. Never been invited to be part of the curriculum. And actually, they don't even invite, as far as I knew, maybe they've changed this, but last I knew, the HPC people even did the data science curriculum. They didn't invite the data scientists to do that piece either. So there's just a lot of silos, I guess, that is maybe one of the sources. Well, I don't think we have any questions from remote. You would flag if we did. Okay. Do we want to close the session early?
Yeah, I think we were prepared for an hour session.
Yeah, we prepared for an hour, but it's always nice to have discussion time. I hope, you're 3 days, 2.5 days into listening to people talk at you mostly. So maybe you wouldn't mind if you get a jump start on lunch, or you have extra time if you're trying to not have what the lunch is here.
Yeah, and please note that you can sign up to join the exercise. Just put your name and contact details on the shared notes. Thank you, everyone. I think we got some great ideas, some new perspectives to the discussion, and now we just need to implement.
Yes.
No problem. Then the world will be ready in a few years. No, just joking. Well, if you would like to join, sign up. There are some other activities that please take a look at those as well. If you have any questions, just come to talk to us. Thanks to you all.